So, as I alluded to in my foldables versus slabs video, I want to do a comparison between the Galaxy Z Fold 3 and the Surface Duo 2. Now, this isn't going to be your average kind of everyday comparison. There's not going to be a definitive winner, mainly because I feel like these two devices are meant for two totally different types of consumers. The way that I want to do this comparison is just to name off a few pros in my experience that I love for each device. And that pro will be a con for the other device or a way that the other device could improve, something along those lines. So it's definitely going to be a fun one. It's going to be a good ride. Here is Fold 3 versus Surface Duo 2. So getting right into it, I want to talk the pros for the Fold 3 first. So what I want to get into right away has to be the form factor. That's going to be the first thing. So the form factor on the Fold 3 is in its closed state a little bit more easier to use as a normal device than say the Surface Duo 2. You can kind of see them both here. If I'm holding this device here, this is far easier for me to hold up to my ear to take a phone call, that type of thing, than holding this device. Now, it's not impossible, obviously. It's just significantly more wider, and that's not necessarily a knock against the Duo. I would prefer a Z Fold 3 to be somewhere in the middle of, or a Z Fold 4, I'm sorry, to be somewhere in the middle of these two devices. But I gotta say, when it comes to just doing normal phone things like taking a phone call, it's gonna be a lot easier to wield the Fold 3 than it is the Duo 2. Moving right along, the next thing I want to talk about is the feature set. So, whenever you're buying a flagship Galaxy device, whether it's a foldable, the slab, which is the S22 Ultra, whatever, you're going to be loaded with a ton of extra features. Here on the Z Fold 3, you have extra features. Say, we'll go here in depth and go to Good Lock. Now, with Good Lock, you're getting a whole kind of smorgasbord of extra things that your device can do, things that just make your device on a day to day, feel more functional, more powerful. You have things like completely changing your entire lock screen, making split screen multitasking work better, which that's a whole nother topic we're gonna talk about later on. But just from a feature perspective, Microsoft is already kind of struggling to make the Duo 2 kind of work the way that they're advertising, kind of work the way as intended, because this is by far a more drastic departure from what normal Android was designed to do than this is. Think of this as, two external monitors, and you're having to make sure that applications understand where they need to launch at when you're trying to move one thing over to the other screen, all of that. Where this is just, in some instances, a blown up smartphone interface. So, like I said, when you're looking at it from that perspective, Fold 3 is gonna be, is pretty much gonna be able to be more feature rich, more feature packed. So, and then on top of that, obviously, it's always tough to beat a Samsung smartphone when it comes to features. So, like I said, feature set, I definitely got to give it to the Z Fold 3. The form factor, when you're looking at doing normal phone things, like I said, taking phone calls, scrolling lists, things like that. Obviously, the Fold 3 is easier to use in one hand. Now, the last thing that I want to get into is probably going to be one of the biggest ones for a lot of people, and that is the camera set. Now, the camera set on the Duo 2 isn't terrible. It's not bad. I think it got a lot of undeserved hate from a lot of creators, but the camera on the Duo 2 is by far more usable than, like I said, what anyone ever gave it credit for. But when it comes to overall output, I definitely got to say I prefer the Fold 3. Taking a look at the back here, you can see that the Fold 3 has a little bit, smaller of a camera bump, which again, camera bumps isn't something I'm like, super against or anything like that. I much prefer having the cameras be awesome, amazing, and having that bump than having it be flat and we have, camera sensors that aren't as large and all of that other good stuff. But they both have, the normal trifecta. So it's the ultra wide, the normal wide, and then the telephoto. Telephoto tops out at 2x on Duo 2. It tops out at 3x on Fold 3. Now, the one thing I will say, the redeeming quality in terms of the Duo has to be the shutter. there is no shutter lag on this particular device. And if you know my channel and you know how I am about Samsung and their shutter lag, it is still very much there whenever you're taking pictures with the Fold 3. I mean, even at this point, the S22 Ultra for that matter has the shutter lag. But like I said, you can definitely see it there on this particular camera set. But just in terms of the actual output from each camera, I do have to say that I prefer the output from the Fold 3 over the Surface Duo 2 in pretty much every situation that I put these two smartphones in. So, like I said, camera situation, I definitely got to give it to Fold 3. Surface Duo 2 does have the better shutter, but the overall output, which is at the end of the day what I mostly care about, I got to give it to the Fold 3. Next up, let's cover Duo 3's pros. And the first one that we're going to get into has to be multitasking. So, the Fold 3 can do multitasking. It's not a bad device at multitasking. Just in my opinion, Surface Duo 2 is just by far easier. You saw there, it was as simple as literally just clicking open two separate applications and they opened up with no problem at all. Whereas here on the Fold 3, you're actually in a situation where you have to kind of deliberately kind of go into split screen multitasking. So you have to pull over to the side your, multitasking bar, and then you're launching an application that way. Most of the time, they open up in this orientation, which I'm going to be honest, unless you're on two applications that, scroll or whatever the case may be, you're definitely in a situation where you're going to want to rotate this and have it kind of up and down. This is by far, the way that I mainly multitask on my Fold. But even if I do the same on Duo 2 and rotate Duo 2 in the same orientation, you'll see with Duo 2, you're getting more screen real estate. Like I said, it's not going to be a dramatic, but it's far more screen real estate on Duo 2 than it is on Fold 3. So, like I said, when it comes to productivity and multitasking as a whole, I gotta give kudos to Microsoft. They know what they're doing. Now, I would love to see Microsoft give us the ability to do, three applications, maybe have one here at the top and then have two at the bottom, something of that nature. Just because I know here on the Z Fold 3, you have access to exactly that. Now, it is a little cramped here on this particular device, but having it here on this separate screen would be way better in my opinion. So I got to give it to Duo 2 overall for multitasking, but Samsung kind of claps back a bit when it comes to feature set. Next up, I want to talk flexibility. So the Z Fold 3 does have what they call flex mode. So flex mode is really really dope. I'll go ahead and throw on one of the homie Delvon Digital's videos. So if I rotate my Fold 3, if it would rotate, there we go. So if I rotate the Fold 3 and I put it in this orientation, you see that you get this kind of flex mode. I don't want to bend it too far, but you get this, which is flex mode. Now, this isn't terrible, but you can see you got black bars on both sides of your screen. Well, with Duo 2, you don't get black bars at all. I'll literally go and play, let me go to history, and we'll go ahead and we'll literally play the same exact video. Let me turn the volume down. I can literally go into what's called temp mode, and I'll go ahead and switch. And now look at that experience versus this experience. Flex mode, in my opinion, is at its best when it's propping the device up by itself without you having to do anything. I can tell you, I would much rather watch content on this display than on this display. I will give Samsung props. It is pretty cool to be able to scroll through here at the bottom or whatever the case may be. Like that, that is pretty cool. But your actual video viewing experience is you're definitely sacrificing screen real estate there. Now you can pinch in if I'm not mistaken, or maybe you can't pinch in. I could have sworn that you could actually pinched in to fill the screen, but it doesn't seem as though it's letting me do that, at least here in the YouTube app. But like I said, I would much prefer to watch content here on this. This device just feels a bit more flexible. I can also do it in this orientation as well. So if you see, I have YouTube here on the bottom and have a whole nother screen for whatever else I want to do at the top. And yes, it will prop its own self up, same way you have flex mode. So definitely like both of these devices, but I will definitely take temp mode and whatever Microsoft calls this mode over flex mode any day of the week. And the last thing I want to cover when it comes to these two devices, with the pros on the Duo 2, has to be the wider aspect ratio. Now, if you're paying attention, I know that I said that this was a con previously for this device, but the way that I mean that is in the context of it's a con when you're doing things like making phone calls, that type of thing. But when you're in a situation when you actually want to use this device as, just a normal, device, normal slab style experience, this is going to be far better than this here. I can give you a perfect example. I'll open up Spotify on both and I'll pull up the keyboard, and that'll literally tell us everything we need to know. So open up the keyboard on both. Now let me show you this. Which device would you much prefer to type on? Me personally, I would rather type on the Surface Duo 2 because it is by far a wider aspect ratio. I can actually type on this device, using, two hands like normal. This is a test. And then I come over here, while yes, I can use swipe, and this is generally, I'm just kind of swiping whatever, but this is generally how I, interact with this keyboard. But if I actually wanted to type with this with two hands, you can already see I'm making, mistakes, typos, things like that already right off the bat. So, like I said, when it comes to normal phone, calls and things like that, I got to give it to the Z Fold 3. This is more comfortable to hold in your hand for normal phone things. But when it comes to a using your phone traditionally like a normal slab style smartphone, Duo 2 definitely has it beat. So what I would love to see is a Duo 2 or a Duo 3 kind of either one, keep this aspect ratio and just give us like a one-handed mode or something of that nature, just so it's a little bit easier to reach across with one hand, or for the Z Fold 4 to actually give us a little bit wider of an aspect ratio. So it's kind of rumored that that's the route that Samsung's heading. Do we know if they're going to do that? We don't know 100%, but either way, those are the pros and cons of each of these particular devices. But I want to know what you think down in the comment section below. Which one of these two devices do you see yourself using every single day for your particular workflow? If it's neither of these devices, tell me why you have to go back to a traditional slab. As always, thank you so much for watching. This is Ike's Tech Talk. I will catch you all in the next video. Peace.